Good evening. Welcome to NTD UK News. I'm Stuart Lees. Our top story tonight. The Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan shakes the world. We hear from UK Afghans worrying for their friends and relatives, and a veteran who lost his legs there on his second tour.
Honestly, I'm totally lost for words. Totally lost for words.
Also tonight, a privacy watchdog advises caution over signing up to apps to order food and drink in pubs and restaurants. And lockdown last year pushed alcohol-specific deaths in Scotland to the highest level in more than 10 years. A former royal engineer who lost his legs fighting in Afghanistan says he is lost for words at the Taliban's takeover. It's made him question the sacrifice he and his military friends made. NTD's Joy Duguid has the story.
Former UK military royal engineer Jack Cummings lost his legs fighting in Afghanistan. Seeing the fall of Kabul is devastating for him.
Honestly, I'm totally lost for words. Totally lost for words. What's happened the past week, the past couple of days, just... Yeah, the emotions are raw.
He says the day the Taliban entered Kabul was the 11th anniversary of him losing his legs.
So that day's always raw for me anyway, raw for me and my family. Normally I'm quite quiet. I keep myself to myself. Me and my wife will have a few drinks and reminisce. But I just felt on Saturday I had to write something like that.
Cummings writes on Twitter, "Was it worth it? Probably not. Did I lose my legs for nothing? Looks like it. Did my mates die in vain? Yep." He says he loves his job and is proud to have served in the army, but he feels sorry for Afghanistan.
Heartbreaking and devastating to see just the country I fought in and fought for has just gone up in smoke like that. Absolutely crazy.
Cummings is a former bomb disposal specialist. He served 2 tours in Afghanistan and competed in the Invictus Games. Over the past 20 years, 15,000 British military personnel served in Afghanistan. 457 were killed. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
Afghans living in the UK are shocked to see the fate befalling their country and the return of the Taliban. Many of them have friends and family that are in danger. NTD's Natalia Nutting brings us this report.
Afghans who fled their homeland 20 years ago gather at West London Community Centre. They watch in horror as news channels and social media show the Taliban's return.
I'm in shock, to be honest with you. Since yesterday, I don't even know how to express my feelings anymore. It's just very shocking, very upsetting.
Jalal says his family and friends back home are sad and scared.
No one can go outside the houses, like a lot of police officers, a lot of the people who are working as an army, they're living like in a hiding society, they're living in the basements, they cannot go anywhere.
Abdul says his entire family is in Afghanistan, hiding from the Taliban.
We will expect the Taliban will come and search house by house. They find out who they were working and who was working for the government, especially police, those who are working for the foreign national.
Darius Nassimi is the head of the Afghanistan and Central Asian Association. His father set up the organization to help Afghans integrate into British life.
I think it's a very, very difficult, very shocking situation, and I hope that the international community changes their approach. I urge the UK government to change their policy towards staying in Afghanistan.
Nassimi says his organisation is receiving up to 50 inquiries a day from those trying to leave Afghanistan for Britain.
The number of people who will leave Afghanistan is going to increase. People have already made their way to Pakistan, to Iran, and then from Iran they will be coming to Italy and Greece and then France and eventually to the UK.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson will launch a resettlement scheme for Afghans who are most in need of help, especially women and girls. The PM plans to host a virtual meeting of leaders from the group of 7 nations in the coming days. They will discuss how to prevent Afghanistan from becoming a source of international terrorist threats and how to support the people there. Natalia Nutting, NTD News.
Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab says the UK would need to be pragmatic about how it engaged with the Taliban, who don't share the UK's standards of human rights. He says the situation at Kabul's main airport is stabilising. NTD's Kostamines has the details.
Following devastating scenes in Afghanistan on Monday, the Foreign Secretary says the situation at the main airport is stabilising. The UK has sent 600 extra military personnel there.
It's critically important, not just for the stability on the ground for Afghans, but critically for our evacuation effort. We've made real progress. We had 150 British nationals come out on Sunday. Over the last week, we've also had 289 of those Afghan nationals who have served the UK so loyally in Afghanistan, and we expect over the next 24 hours to have 350 more both British nationals and Afghan nationals who've worked for us coming out. So the situation is stabilising, but obviously we're monitoring it very carefully.
Speaking to Sky News, he said the UK would need to be pragmatic when dealing with the Taliban.
Ordinarily, you'd say no. Well, they don't share our standards of human rights. They don't
that doesn't stop us dealing with China.
They don't treat women the way that
doesn't stop
we
us
want.
dealing with China.
Well, I think we're going to have to be pragmatic, as the UK policy has always been. We've engaged through the political commission of the Taliban in Doha. It's important we engage through third parties. That's why I spoke to my Qatari foreign minister. We're going to need to be able to send clear messages, and our message is going to be this: Afghanistan must never be used to launch terrorist attacks against the West.
He said the UK would have taken action if it had foreseen the situation.
And of course, this has been part and parcel of the withdrawal of Western troops, but it's also been the way and the approach of the Taliban, and of course it's been a test for the Afghan security forces. All of those factors have been very fluid, but no one saw this coming. Of course we would have taken action if we had.
Raab and his US counterpart have spoken about the need for international coordination. Kostamines, NTD News.
A privacy watchdog advises caution over entering private details in mobile phone apps when ordering food and drink. The Information Commissioner's Office says you have a choice whether to share your personal information. NTD's Neil Woodrow reports.
The BBC reported on Tuesday that the Information Commissioner's Office warns pubs and restaurants should only ask for personal data that is relevant and necessary when ordering food and drink via your mobile phone. Suzanne Gordon, Director of Data Protection at the ICO, says, "I think it's too easy to upload an app and straight away put your name, email address, payment details in without actually understanding fully where that information may be shared and why it's being used. Users say there are benefits from ordering via a signed-up app account. The customer avoids standing in a queue or can order more efficiently. The venue gains a connection with the consumer that can be used later for offering promotions. But few know where their data is going and rarely read the terms and conditions." Gordon added, "Customers need to understand they do have a choice. We're now coming out of the pandemic and there's the ability to order on the app or in the more traditional way." Neil Woodrow, NTD News.
The lockdown in 2020 pushed alcohol-specific deaths in Scotland to the highest level in more than a decade. NTD's Kostamines brings us the details.
Nearly 1,200 alcohol-specific deaths were recorded in Scotland last year. That's according to figures from National Records of Scotland, who say the deaths are at their highest since 2008. Alcohol-specific deaths in 2020 were up 170 from 2019 figures, a 17% increase. Alcohol-specific deaths are different from alcohol-related deaths. They exclude deaths that are partially attributed to alcohol. Males accounted for over 2/3 of the deaths. The rate of male alcohol-specific deaths is about 31 per 100,000 population, more than double the rate for females. 60% of alcohol-specific deaths in the last year were people in their 50s and 60s. Alcoholic liver disease was the underlying cause of over 60% of alcohol-specific deaths in 2020. Mental and behavioral disorders due to the use of alcohol accounted for about a quarter of them. Glasgow City and Inverclyde had the highest rates of alcohol-specific deaths. However, these two local authority areas also saw the biggest reduction since 2004. Kostam Enes, NTD News.
The UK's medicine regulator authorises the use of the Moderna jab on 12 to 17-year-olds. The MHRA says it's now up to the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation to advise the government if children in the age group should be vaccinated. Some medical professionals have questioned if children need the vaccine, given their low risk of becoming ill with the CCP virus. The Pfizer jab is already approved for 12 to 15-year-olds. All 16 to 17-year-olds are being offered the first dose of the Pfizer vaccine this month. 12 to 15-year-olds who are clinically vulnerable or who live with others who are more at risk of becoming ill are also being offered their first dose. London's Hammersmith Bridge has now partly reopened to the delight of the locals. It comes after many months of closure and difficult journeys to get north of the Thames. But it's not all over just yet. NTD's Neil Woodrow gets the latest from a resident campaigner.
The Hammersmith Bridge in West London had been closed to all traffic since August 2020, but finally pedestrians and cyclists have been given the green light to cross. People are busily enjoying being able to come and go across London's Hammersmith Bridge once again.
I am delighted the bridge is open. It is transformative for people living in Barnes being able to get to Hammersmith and into the city really easily again.
I asked, what does Hammersmith on the northern side of the bridge have that Barnes on the southern side lacks?
Really good transport links into the city. And the facilities of Hammersmith are so important for a lot of people. There's lots of shops, lots of banks that we just don't have on our side of the river.
There was one striking thing about the current situation, the peace and quiet as people quietly traverse the bridge.
Yeah, I have to say that is blissful. The absence of queues and queues of cars coming over Hammersmith Bridge really is very, very pleasant.
Back in 2019, motor vehicles were banned from crossing the bridge due to microfractures discovered in the cast iron pedestals that hold the suspension system in place. In August the following year, engineers closed the bridge completely as its condition had deteriorated further. It reopened last month but has yet to allow motor vehicles to use the bridge again. Campaigner Julia Watkins thinks there is some division among locals as to whether cars and buses should be allowed.
No one could have predicted that in the 21st century you'd have tens of thousands of cars and buses using it every single day, and the structure simply isn't up to that kind of usage. So a lot of work has to be done to make it viable for motor vehicles again.
The bridge is Grade 2 listed and 134 years old. It was designed with horse and carts and people in mind. The motor car hadn't been invented. At a public meeting in October last year, they were told it would take 6.5 years from when funding was agreed for the bridge to be ready for motor vehicles again. But that funding has not yet been agreed. Before the recent reopening, the council agreed to provide a ferry crossing service. Locals still want that to proceed.
Locals are really worried that the bridge will close again at short notice and we will need a ferry service. So we're hoping that planning permission, which is going through at the moment, will be granted to at least build piers so a ferry can come in at quite short notice in future, even when we need it.
Funding has been a major stumbling block. Julia Watkins tells me Hammersmith and Fulham Council and the Department for Transport have been unable to come to any kind of agreement for more than a year.
The 33% that the Department of Transport have offered sounds quite generous. It's actually not at all, because it leaves TfL funding 1/3 as well, and Hammersmith Council being lumped with 1/3 of £100 million, which is an enormous bill for any council to put, and is quite unfair in the fact that it's not a local bridge used in a park or something. It's a major A road which people from all over the country use, and they need proper funding to fix it properly.
Another local I spoke to was keen on having a toll on the bridge. It's an idea that was put forward by the council. His office is on the north side of the bridge.
I think so. It will solve a lot of problems. It will reduce the traffic, and then if there will be some income generated to repair the bridge, and that will be, I think, in the interest of the people of Barnes.
Watkins agrees that the toll is a solution, but isn't convinced it'll be in place anytime soon.
However, there does seem to be a lot of internal wrangling again between the Department of Transport and Hammersmith Council about whether this toll would work in practice. So it's all up in the air, as has always been the case with Hammersmith Bridge.
Hammersmith Bridge is London's first ever suspension bridge, built in 1887. It's the only one of its kind in the world. The council's wish is to restore it back to full working order in its Victorian splendour.
The Hammersmith Bridge is open, and whilst the locals may be happy, the uncertainty continues. Neil Woodrow, NTD News, Hammersmith Bridge, London.
Still to come, German Chancellor Angela Merkel reflects on what she calls the bitter developments in Afghanistan. That and more after the break. German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Monday called the latest developments in Afghanistan bitter. She said efforts to change the country did not work. NTD's Joanna Conway tells us more.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel on Monday commented on the developments in Afghanistan.
Seit dem Abzug der ausländischen Truppen aus Afghanistan müssen wir erleben.
Since the withdrawal of foreign troops from Afghanistan, we had to witness how the Taliban were taking over province by province and city by city at breathtaking speed, and how they brought the entire country under their control again. This is a very bitter development, bitter, dramatic and terrible, especially for the people in Afghanistan.
Merkel said after the US decided to leave, it left Germany and other Europeans with no choice.
We have
to realise that an independent role of Germany or other European forces during the NATO mission in Afghanistan was not possible. We have always said that we were fundamentally depending on the decisions of the American government.
She said efforts by foreign powers to change the country did not work.
Und insofern muss man sagen, dass das keine erfolgreiche Bemühung war.
We have to say that our efforts were not successful, and we have to learn our lessons and set ourselves smaller goals on those missions.
French President Macron on the same day warned that terror groups will try to take advantage of the destabilisation. He said the fight against Islamist terrorism would not end, and that stability can now only come about through diplomacy. Macron called on the UN Security Council for a united response. Joanna Conway, NTD News.
Shoppers in large parts of France are now required to show a health pass to enter shopping centres. It's part of the recent expansion of the pass to cover restaurants, bars, long-distance transport services and most entertainment venues. NTD's Eddie Aiken brings us the details.
Shopping centres with a surface area of over 20,000 square metres require proof of a COVID-19 vaccination or a negative test. This mostly applies to Paris and the southern regions of France, where the incidence rate of the virus is higher than the other parts of the country.
Si c'est provisoire, ça va.
If it is temporary, it is fine. But at some point they will have to stop all this, because now a lot of people have been vaccinated.
The government says the measure is in response to a rapid increase in case numbers.
For elderly people like me, I think it's a good thing. But is it a good thing for everyone? I am not sure. But I think I am better protected this way.
Most shoppers on Monday willingly showed their health pass, along with a few reports of customers trying to circumvent the rule. This restaurant worker complained about having to check the pass of customers.
It is extremely unpleasant, at least for me. It is extremely unpleasant to have to check my customers' personal information. It takes time to unlock the phone, to find the application, to open it, and to find the QR code. The scanning part works very well, the application works, but every step before that takes time. And the more customers there are, the longer it takes and slows down the service.
Police are now ramping up efforts to enforce the use of the health pass in public spaces after being more lenient about it last week. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Germany is recommending PCR tests for people showing symptoms who are already vaccinated against COVID-19. A so-called breakthrough case is someone who is fully vaccinated that tests positive for the virus. Germany's Federal Disease Control Agency registered almost 11,000 breakthrough cases since the beginning of February. That's less than 1% of all who tested positive during the same time period. Of all breakthrough cases, almost 900 needed to be hospitalized. Most were people aged 60 and over. Currently, 57% of Germans are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Now some amazing images of a spacecraft as it passes Venus on its 7-year journey to Mercury. It's part of a joint mission between Europe and Japan. It's hoped the mission will uncover some of the deeper mysteries of Mercury's atmosphere and surface. NTD's Eddie Aitken has the story.
The white mass you see here is Venus. On August the 10th, the European-Japanese spacecraft flew by very close to the planet's cloudy atmosphere at a distance of 350 miles away. It's the second time that the probe has captured images of the planet, although the previous was from a much greater distance. But Venus is not the final destination. The mission is to reach Mercury to study its structure and magnetic field. It's a collaborative effort between the European Space Agency and Japan's Aerospace Exploration Agency. Mercury is only slightly larger than the Earth's moon. It has a massive iron core about which little is known. The only other spacecraft to visit the planet was NASA's Mariner 10 in the mid-1970s. It ended its mission in 2015 after a 4-year orbit. The European-Japanese spacecraft is scheduled to arrive in December 2025, following a 7-year journey. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
The authorities in northeastern Siberia are using a method of cloud seeding to tackle wildfires in the region. It's hoped to increase rainfall aiding efforts to put out the flames. NTD's Joy Duguid has more on this.
Northeastern Siberia has seen devastating wildfires this year. Russia's Aerial Forest Protection Service uses cloud seeding to increase rainfall. For that, a plane is equipped with shells of silver iodide.
Silver iodide crystals are very similar to the crystals of ice, which provokes water accumulation on these crystals as we are working at the altitude of 4,200 meters or higher.
A plane takes off from the region's capital, Yakutsk, then injects clouds above the affected areas. The Regional Crisis Centre said on Monday 11 wildfires were eliminated in the previous 24 hours. Wildfires in Russia's Yakutia region have been particularly intense this year. It followed months of hot, dry weather. So far, fires have destroyed more than 7 million hectares. That's about the area of Ireland. This year's fires destroyed villages and blanketed Yakuts in thick smoke. Russian President Vladimir Putin urged authorities to strengthen their efforts, calling the situation unprecedented. Joy Duguid, NTD News.
People who visited Wikipedia on Monday were confronted by a Nazi flag after a vandal hacked the site. Several pages were affected on a diverse range of issues. American media pundit Ann Coulter shared the hack on her Twitter page, as did Ben Travis, deputy editor at Empire magazine. A Wikimedia spokesperson said the hack was reverted within 5 minutes, and additional protections were added to the pages after. It condemned the attack as vile and unacceptable. And finally, an exhibition of classic cars from the studio of a famous Italian designer is on display in Moscow. It's part of a year of cooperation between Italian and Russian museums. NTD's Ariane Pasta has that story.
Italian vehicles spanning from the 1950s to the 2010s are on display in Moscow. The exhibition is called 100 Years of Italian Style, Cars of Nuccio Bertoni. It celebrates the Italian automotive pioneer.
Everything that Bertone did, every project he worked on, which his designers worked on, his atelier worked on, each of these projects took automotive design a notch higher.
Bertone's alliance with Lamborghini is a highlight. Their cars have become design and engineering legends. The Lamborghini Espada on display was one of the fastest four-seater coupe automobiles of its time.
This is an absolute masterpiece. This car was once dubbed by journalists as a chic living room capable of accelerating to 155 miles per hour.
Key examples of Bertone's style include the 1954 Alfa Romeo Giulietta Sprint. There were no computers when it came out. Body models were first designed from plaster or wood.
Design in the 1950s was not tied to production. That is, there was no technical specialists involved and so on. There was a pure design, him, his pencil and his ideas.
The exhibition also includes drawings and photographs. From artists' impression of modern concept cars to decade-old sketches showing the design process of early models. 2021 has been declared the year of cooperation between museums in Italy and Russia.
We're very happy to bring Italian things here for demonstration, while Italians in turn can enjoy Russian exhibitions.
The exhibition is being held at the Special Purpose Garage Museum. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
That's the news for today, and thanks for tuning in. I'm Stabilising. Thank you for watching our daily news show on YouTube. You can also watch our other programming on channel 190 on Sky TV or on Freeview via channel box on channel 271. In the meantime though, please give this video a like and hit subscribe to our channel. Have a good day.